Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we explore our ongoing journey into the realm of cosmic neighbors and friends. Before we dive into that very rich and compelling domain, I want to comment on what's happened in the last 24 hours as a result of Donald Trump announcing really the most massive tariff increases across more countries than certainly in modern times. There were tariffs that were raised by the United States in the 1920s as a result of the Depression, but nothing comes even close to the scope and comprehensiveness of what Donald Trump unleashed in his day of liberation yesterday. There are many things that one can say about that, but I think the essence is what it tells us about the mind of Trump. And I want to focus on that as we begin today because it's the realm of consciousness and the realm, therefore, of the human psyche that is preeminent in our calculus for unfolding events. As Carl Jung said really 100 years ago, as he began to explore the deep recesses of our collective unconscious, that it is only our consciousness that determines what we perceive about the world, and therefore how we respond to the world. This is not happening from the external environment. It's happening inside our psyches, which interpret the environment and then respond. And that's both liberating and terrifying if you think about it, because most of us interact with the rest of the world as if the rest of the world is actually real, and it is. But no two people perceive what is happening in a similar way. And therefore, when we get into times of duress, it's really important to discern the psychic filtering mechanisms, particularly of the President of the United States. And that's what I want to comment on. You're going to hear a lot about the results of the tariffs in terms of price increases, while in the budget that they have prepared are the most massive tax decreases for the rich. So Trump is trying to bring in revenue through tariffs while he cuts the taxes on the rich, which is going to lead, as we all can just intuit commonsensically, to a disaster, both domestically and internationally. The deeper point is why he's doing it. And I want to just draw some similarities so we understand the mind of Trump as it unfolds into his second term. That he's using roughly the same language about the tariffs as he did and does about the 2020 election. The election was stolen. The tariffs are a ripoff. They're out to get me. And the emotion or complex that indicates in the psyche is the distortion of paranoia. So we need to start just taking in that a fundamental operational dynamic in the psyche of Donald Trump is paranoia. And I want to combine that with two other factors that I think are at play that were revealed in a very interesting interview by Bob Woodward just a few days ago by a reporter to the Washington Post. You'll know Bob Woodward and Bernstein. Woodward and Bernstein were the ones who uncovered the information leading to the Watergate really conviction of Richard Nixon and the reality that he was forced to resign. They've been investigative journalists ever since. Bob Woodward has written a series of best-selling books, and he's written 4 books on Trump. And one of the books was named Fear. And the journalist asked Woodward, now that you've gotten to know Trump so well, what would you say about Trump as a person? And Woodward made the following comments, which are very, very insightful, and we need to take in. One is, he asked Trump, how do you define power? And Trump said, power is the ability to instill fear. Watch how Trump operates starting in 2016. It's this capacity to instill fear and intimidation in his opponents, threats, bombast, always with an intent to consolidate and to subordinate the power equation. And the other thing that Bob Woodward noted was that whatever is happening and whoever is talking to him, whatever advice is being given by staffers or cabinet secretaries, Trump internalizes it as his idea. And he said to Woodward at one point, everything is my idea. And Woodward asked him, even if it comes from somebody else, like a staffer in a meeting, and he said, yeah, it's all my idea. So when you combine paranoia with narcissism, you get the perfect ingredients for the characteristics of a sociopath. Paranoia positions the world as something strange and alien over which you have to dominate by fear or coercive power. And the narcissism cuts one off from ethics because everything's about you. And it's only those who understand that that's not true, that the world is also about other people and other realities. And as Jung says, that the opposite of a truth is not a falsehood, but another great truth. When that is lost in a complexio of paranoia and narcissism, you get Donald Trump, amazingly powerful. He's risen to the presidency twice because he doesn't abide by any of the norms and procedures and protocols and conventions of the culture, because he doesn't understand the reality outside of himself. So as his administration unfolds, these complexes are only going to become more acute, particularly when the complexities of the world response and the increasing turbulence domestically and internationally unfolds by his actions in that inevitable law of unintended consequences that Gibbon spoke about in his masterwork, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, where he said that even if you are a Caesar, no one can supersede the law of unintended consequences. And that's what's now going to unfold. And so we all need to know that's what's coming. The details will be commented upon by the news, media, and so forth. But if we understand the deeper workings of the psyche of the man who is currently president of the United States, we will, to a large degree, understand and not be surprised by what will now unfold. So thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Humanity Rising. And this is actually a perfect segue to the conversation we want to have now, because all of us, as a matter of urgency, need to attend to our psyches, need to attend to the consciousness that is available to us. As the crisis around us deepens, the opportunities expand. And only an elevated consciousness will be able to discern the navigation strategies in deepening chaos by identifying the vectors of opportunity. Because the vectors of opportunity is what we need to track. And as I've said many, many times before, the key, in my view, to opening up the doors of perception in our time is understanding the reality that we are not alone, and that the extraterrestrials are here, and we're being given an extraordinary opportunity to establish contact and communication. That's one of the major vectors of our time. And that's why we keep exploring the ET phenomenon and the reality that we are not alone through our ET studies program and a variety of programs on Humanity Rising and psionic summits and so forth and so on. That's the portal. That's the portal to higher consciousness. And it's within this context that I want to invite in Birdie Jaworski, who, of everyone I know out there in this domain of consciousness, ETs, remote viewing, mental telepathy, is unsurpassed. And we are very privileged and fortunate to have Birdie with us. She's a remote viewer of some renown. She has built the largest UFO group in the United States, possibly in the world. She has a whole team of remote viewers that work with her in a variety of ways, including with police departments and various individuals who are trying to find things lost. And she is the principal partner with us at Ubiquity in our ET studies program through her organization, TransDimensional Mapping. So we're going to talk about two things. One is an upcoming journey that she is leading in Taos, New Mexico, the first week of May. And then secondly, her presence as a lead faculty with Veda Austin, July 6 through 12 in Chartres. Because we want to make sure that all of you have the opportunity that we believe is an imperative in our time, and that is to refine our faculties of consciousness. And that's where Birdie Jaworski is, I would say, almost without peer in our world. So Birdie, thank you very much for your presence with us. And why don't we start by just give us your latest update on remote viewing and the ETs and everything that you're picking up out there, just to set some context for our journey with you to Taos.
Thanks, Jim. I am so glad to be here with you and talking with everyone at Humanity Rising this morning. It's an absolutely beautiful day here in New Mexico. And I think by the first weekend of May, when we have our Taos retreat, we're going to have incredible weather and beautiful night skies. But there's so many things happening in the world of consciousness and ET communication right now. I think most of the viewers here are familiar with Jake Barber, a UAP whistleblower who had the encounters with the egg-shaped UAP and had this beautiful love-centered interaction with it. And since then, Jake has been working with a team over at Skywatchers, and they are now reporting that they have been collecting some incredible evidence, video and photographic evidence, other kinds of evidence that they will be presenting to the public next week. And this is exciting because it shows that there are teams working out there that are able to use simply the power of their minds to communicate with and connect with the UAP phenomenon and to call in our ET friends and to have some kind of a back and forth with them. It's pretty amazing what's been happening. And in my own group, a number of us have been working on ET communications for some time. And this has been a passion of mine for some years. And it's amazing the actual conversations that you can have with any number of ET species out there, from the little gray dudes out there all the way to ones that some people might call the Pleiadians or the Nordics or the reptilians. It's amazing how you can actually send your own mind on this journey to have this deep interpersonal communication that works on so many different levels. They have a lot to teach us. And I believe that they have a lot to learn from us too. It's a two-way street, this communication. It's not just simply us receiving messages. We're able to talk with them and tell them all the things that's going on inside of ourselves and on our planet. We're able to reach out and ask for some guidance and some assistance as well. So I'm just extraordinarily excited about how all of this is developing and how more and more people are getting involved on this communication journey.
Well, let's probe that for a moment before we talk
Yeah.
about Taos. When you say, sending your mind on a journey, that's obviously remote viewing, which is your area of expertise. Just share with us how you came into this domain and what does it actually mean to send your mind on a journey?
Well, I first learned about remote viewing when it was declassified by the US government. They admitted in the second half of 1995 that they had spent 20 years and millions of taxpayer dollars training soldiers to be psychic spies. They worked with natural psychics who were very well known. They worked with scientists who had been doing studies in parapsychology. And they came up with a set of protocols, a method where they could literally teach anyone to travel using only the power of their mind. So these psychic soldiers were able to see what was happening behind adversary lines, are the enemies of the United States. They were able to go and to report on what was going on just by using mental powers. After this was declassified, the military guys started training some people out in the world. And I was one of the first civilians trained. I was trained by Dr. Courtney Brown at the brand new Farsight Institute at that time. I then became vice president at Farsight, worked there for a few years, and then left to start my own company where I did a lot of work with law enforcement agencies using just these cool methods in our mental powers to find missing people, find missing artwork, track down perpetrators, and also to work with a number of corporate clients to solve all kinds of problems that they had, come up with creative solutions just using our mental powers. And today I'm doing the same thing, and I'm training people all over the world to do this for themselves. I believe this is the next evolutionary step for humanity, to tap into our telepathic and psychic abilities. And I think we are right at the precipice of this. We're now seeing children who are coming into the world who are having a deep connection to these abilities and able to express themselves in this way. And those of us who are older, we can still learn these methods and work on our intuitive abilities and actually accurately describe anything, anytime, any place, just using what's up here.
Just using what's up here. She
That's
makes it
right.
seem so simple.
It is simple.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your particular technique, Birdie, because you began, as you indicated, in a more military hierarchical format, which is where it all originated, out of the CIA and the US military. But over the decades now, you have refined your own technique that is much more expansive, innovative, and I would say user-friendly. So tell us about how transdimensional mapping evolved to where it is today.
Yeah, the original remote viewing methods that came out of the government Stargate program were called controlled remote viewing or coordinate remote viewing, CRV. And this is a method that's still being used, and many people are learning it from a variety of trainers out there, both the military um, folks who are still training today and many of their students. And so many people are using this CRV methodology, and it works wonderfully. I have no strong criticisms about it generally. However, I found for myself that I found that those protocols were limiting for me because the language that they're steeped in was very militaristic and very patriarchal. They use words like target, and, the target that you're supposed to hit or miss. And they would evaluate the remote viewer's data based on whether they hit the target or miss the target. There's a lot of other similar language like that throughout the protocols. It also kept you keeping your left brain super busy so that your right brain could get out information. And that's an important part of what I still do today. But it also, in CRV, the data is kept kind of micronized in a way. You just get small, discrete points of data as you go through your remote viewing session. And you're not able easily to put together a full and comprehensive narrative where you can understand the experience, the so-called target, on multiple levels, understand not only who is there, what's happening, where it's happening, what it smells and tastes and feels like, but also what is the psychological importance of this thing that you've been sent to look at, and what is the philosophical meaning behind it. And so I developed a system that I call transdimensional mapping. Transdimensional is kind of a throwback to my old company, Transdimensional Systems. And mapping is this cool technique that I developed where we work on these huge pieces of paper that we call maps, and we're able to make connections between different pieces of data that we get. And this helps us understand the context in which we're getting it. So if you get a building, you're able to figure out what the relationship of that building is to the land around it or to the people inside of it. And that helps you understand in totality everything that's going on. It's a pretty incredible system, and it's also very creative because you can use all kinds of art supplies, so it kind of opens up that inner child inside of you. You're able to use, crayons and markers and colored pencils and different textures. And that's really wonderful for the intuitive process because our minds don't simply work on just images or even just language. We work on so many different levels, and we all have different abilities and things that we connect with. So I think it's exciting, and I'm so glad that people are very much enjoying learning transdimensional mapping, and I am seeing some of the most incredible results I have ever seen in the entire field of remote viewing since I started teaching this.
Yes, and tell us a little bit about the certificate program that you're developing, because there's a whole series of courses, everyone. We had our first one in January. We'll be having our second one in the third week of May, and then September, and then January and May of 2026, at the conclusion of which you get a certificate in transdimensional mapping. say a little bit, Birdie, about sort of what does one learn when one wants to engage in remote viewing as you're teaching it, and then we'll turn to Taos.
Yeah, so the first class, and we held the first class in January, and it is available now at Ubiquity University if anyone would like to register and watch the class, the video class. And the first class is 5 days. It's a beginner's look in at remote viewing, transdimensional mapping, and ET communication. And what we cover in that first class are all of the basic techniques that you need to learn to actually use your mind and travel the universe in a psychic and telepathic way. You will remote view, you'll map multiple things blind, meaning I'm not telling you what it is you're looking at. You find out after your session is done. So your mind isn't making things up or trying to fill in the blanks. It also makes it more real to you when you realize you have just drawn the Taj Mahal, and then I show you, hey, and what you just did was visit the Taj Mahal. So the first few days we transdimensional map, we remote view photographs. These are all verifiable, fun, cool things, places on Earth, events that have happened, maybe things like a royal wedding or a famous speech that a politician made, or photographs of really cool geological features. And then we move on into looking at some of the more unusual and unverifiable things out there, like what really happened at Roswell. We do things like that, or we look at some of the big spiritual questions. You can look at things like, what is the nature of God? You can look at the moment that the Buddha achieved enlightenment. That's one of my favorite sessions of all time. There's so many cool things that you can experience, and that's what we cover in the first 5-day class. Now, the second class in this program is coming up in May, and it is Advanced Techniques in Transdimensional Mapping. And this really takes the mapping to a completely new level where you're able to truly figure out everything that's happening in a very accurate and multi-layered way. And we learn all kinds of new techniques about how to layer our maps so that you can look at things throughout time and space. And then you're going to learn many new communications techniques. In the first class, we just started having conversations with um, all kinds of cool beings out there. But in the advanced class, we take that to a completely new level. And I'm going to teach you how to make direct connections, how to establish a connection that you can return to time and time again with any specific being that you feel you want to develop a relationship with. We're also going to talk about how to do a survey of an intergalactic civilization, because that's something that's super fascinating. There are many civilizations in our galaxy alone, let alone the universe at large, and we can examine any one of them. So you get to be kind of an anthropologist in the advanced class and look at a few different civilizations on all levels. We're going to look at things like, how did they become who they are? And you'll see that they struggled with the same kinds of things that we are struggling with today when they were young in their civilization. We're still kind of babies. We're still taking those little toddler steps as a civilization. But some of these beings have been around, their people have been around for millions of years, and they have figured some of this deep stuff out. So we're going to be able to learn from that in the advanced class. And then we have another class after that, which is going to be on what I call technology transfer. This is one of my favorite parts of all of remote viewing. This is something that isn't taught in any of the other remote viewing systems, but it's something I think is very important. It's going to show you how to actually develop blueprints, engineering drawings, schematics, or a deep understanding, scientific understanding of any kind of technology, whether it's from our ancient past that we've forgotten about. There's lots of those, guys. or it could be technologies in the future. We're going to be looking at things like free energy devices, some of the ancient technologies that have been found that nobody understands what they are yet. We're also going to look at ET-based technologies and figure out how some of these craft work. And so technology transfer is another 5-day class, and it'd be perfect for anyone who has a real scientific, mathematical, or technological interest and wants to really get deep in the weeds with this technology. I'm also going to be teaching, as part of the certificate program, a class in what I call time leveling. And again, this is something that no one else is doing. And this is where we're going to take a deep dive into timelines. We're going to look at alternative timelines, how you can actually see where timelines have split. We're going to look into different dimensions and see what those are like. You're going to learn many techniques on this. You're also going to learn how to pinpoint anything that you are experiencing in remote viewing in time and space. It's another 5-day class. And our final class to cap off the certificate program is our advanced ET communications class. That's going to be a full 5 days, and we're going to be talking with the ETs the whole time, guys. It's going to be incredibly deep, provocative, heartwarming, and it's going to change every single aspect of your life. I absolutely promise that. You're going to become a whole different person in the course of that class. You're going to see who you are in this universe and how your experiences relate to the universe at large. And you're going to have some deep, deep conversations with individuals from other places and other spaces. So I'm very excited about this program. It's something that I've spent 25 years developing. And this is the first time that I'm teaching all of these things, and I'm only doing them at Ubiquity. This is a wonderful partnership. I'm very excited about this program. I think that now is the time for humanity to really reach beyond itself, reach beyond our planet, reach beyond our own bodies, and really take our place as galactic citizens.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. By the way, some other time I'd love to hear what you glean by going into Buddha's mind at a time of his enlightenment. That must have been quite something.
I have given that one out to students, and everyone breaks down crying during it. I haven't had a person who didn't do this, because it opens up that you have that same enlightenment experience that the Buddha does. You become the Buddha in this session, and you feel everything that he felt and how he was changed forever in that moment. You get that samadhi moment, that oneness with everything. You feel it inside yourself and you never forget it.
Fantastic. I can hardly wait. That's as good as talking to the ETs.
Honestly, we've had so many incredible mystics on our planet who have helped paved our way.
Yeah, yeah,
And you can look at so many of these wonderful men and women throughout our history and have these beautiful experiences through remote viewing. You
exactly.
get to see the world through their eyes. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I want to just underscore the point that you were making, that this is an extraordinarily important and potentiated moment for humanity. The opportunity to refine our faculties of perception to a whole new level that would allow us to engage in the communication and journeying of the mind without the body. I mean, that's an extraordinary advance in terms of evolution. And remote viewing is one of the, I think, foundational ways that people have discerned to be able to do that. So in that spirit, let's turn to Taos, because that's going to be a very exciting time to go to a place like Taos in New Mexico, which is known as the ET hotspot. Tell us a little bit about your plans for while we're there.
Oh, I cannot wait. I am so crazy excited for this. What we're going to do is we're going to look at all of the different psionics techniques that different groups are using around the world. things like the Skywatcher group are looking at, things like the CE5 type groups are looking at, and we're going to combine some of this methodology with transdimensional mapping. You don't have to have taken the class first. You don't have to have had any training in anything to come on this retreat and to have an amazing, rich experience. I will teach you everything you need to know. We're going to learn some communications techniques, very easy, basic ones that you can use to go have a deep conversation. We're going to actually work on transdimensional mapping, remote viewing during the day, and in the evening, each evening, we're going to have an incredible sky watch there under the beautiful star-filled sky of Taos, where there's no light pollution. It's going to be, you're going to be able to see the Milky Way. It's going to be wonderful. And we're going to call down the orbs and the ships. We're going to extend our consciousness, and we're going to invite a response. And I have done this. We have a group that meets once a month in my UFO group, and we do this kind of on a regular basis. And we often have amazing results. And I know with the group, such as we're putting together for this, it's going to be incredible and an intense and beautiful experience. So I can't wait. I just can't wait.
You know, it's interesting. You're there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're going to be going to Taos, New Mexico. Why do you think New Mexico is such an extraordinary epicenter for ET activity and contact?
I think there's a number of reasons why there has been a strong ET presence all over New Mexico.
Yeah.
First of all, sadly enough, one of the main reasons is because this was where the very first atomic bomb was detonated, at the Trinity site. And there was UFO activity around the time of the Trinity blast. Jacques Vallée and Paola Harris have written a book about those encounters. And then immediately after that, we have the Roswell event, which is, the really kind of signaled the big government conspiracy cover-up of the whole phenomenon after that point. But there are other reasons why I believe we have a strong ET presence here. We have over 50 Native American and Pueblos, reservations and Pueblos just in New Mexico alone. In fact, 87%, I'm pretty sure that's correct, 87% of the land in New Mexico is either Bureau of Land Management, government owned, or national park, or Native American owned. So it's only a very small portion of land in New Mexico where anyone else can live. And so most of the state has this beautiful, pristine quality to it. And with all of these extraordinarily beautiful and ancient, more indigenous cultures that have lived and have many generations on the land here, and they have a deep reverence for the land and also a deep reverence for the sky people. This comes out in many of these different Native American mythologies. And so there is this connection between the people and the land and what lies beyond. And I think that it's a special place. I think New Mexico is like no other state in the entire country. I think it's the best state, but I'm a little biased. But it's always been a hot spot for the paranormal, the unknown, and the deeply mystical. All kinds of incredible mystical experiences happen here too, not just UFO related, but just in terms of meeting your spirit guides or your spirit animals. Many people have these kinds of encounters here. So I think anyone coming to the Taos retreat is in for a real interesting experience. We're going to be right near the Taos Pueblo, which is an ancient, very ancient Pueblo, Native American Pueblo. We're going to be under those same stars. I cannot wait.
Thank you. I just put the link in the chat, everyone, so you can look at the syllabus, and we have a few places left. We invite those of you who are interested to join us. Let's turn, Birdie, now to Chartres. And I want to preface this in the following way. As you all know, we've been preparing for Chartres for the past year. We have our annual pilgrimage to Chartres every year. This will be our 20th year in Chartres, a site of very potent energies associated with the divine feminine. This year, we're going to be examining the sixth of the liberal arts called Geometrica, and we're looking at the living intelligence of water with Veda Austin, who you all know. She's been on Humanity Rising a number of times, and we've been very excited that Veda was going to be there. And then we began to realize that Birdie had a lot of experience in using water as a portal, as a medium, as many of the ancient peoples did. And so we arranged a call to introduce Birdie to Veda. It was like love at first sight between the two of them, and we decided that we would invite Birdie to join Veda in Chartres to amplify Veda's teachings from the point of view of remote viewing. And so I would love to invite everybody there first off, because I think it's going to be potentially a historic convening of these two women, but also deeply illuminating in terms of how we appreciate sacred geometry and how it constructs the universe, and in particular, why water is considered the wellspring of life. It's going to be very, very powerful, and Birdie's going to be there. So Birdie, why don't we talk a little bit about how you've used water as a portal? It's fascinating.
Yeah, water is just such an incredible, incredible life-giving force. And without it, we wouldn't be here. Our bodies are mostly water. And so water is really a part of everything that we do, including remote viewing. It's just there as part of its presence. But one of the things that I have done many times in the past is I've looked at different bodies of water in remote viewing as a way to try to figure out what's happening around them or within them. And you get a sense of the consciousness of water, and that stays with you. And once you start recognizing this in remote viewing, every time you have a further session that involves water, that consciousness speaks to you and it tells you something about what's there. So water is an extraordinarily useful tool in remote viewing. Some people do like to do water gazing, where you can look into a pool of water or a cup of water, or even just visualize water as a means of making a connection as well. This can be useful in cooling down before a remote viewing session. But what I've found most really enlightening and useful for me is doing these different sessions on the meanings behind water and what water can tell us, the sacred geometry within water. There is a lot of mathematics and diagrams. I've done technology transfer sessions involving bodies of water that clearly shows that there is this code, encoded message within every drop of water. And this water is like a medium across the whole planet and in our atmosphere. It surrounds us in all dimensions and it interacts with us constantly. It's why sometimes people go to some place and it's very, very dry and they feel a little off center. You need to hydrate to really feel that connection with the rest of the world. So there is a lot of connection between remote viewing and using water and just being a psychic, vibrant human being, and really interacting with the world of water around us.
That's so interesting. Now, as a remote viewer, are there other elements that also serve as portals? Like, for example, fire. People often talk about staring into the fire, and that can become a portal. What do you understand about how aspects of the natural world can serve as portals to sort of the other side or deeper awareness?
Every single element out there, and we just look at our four basic, the four basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire. Each one of those is a portal, is a connection to the world around us. Every single one of those things, the living breath coming out of every living creature, whether it's plant or animal, there's an exchange of energy. This exchange of energy, I think, is one of the most potent portals out there in remote viewing and in connection, humanity with the rest of our planet. Once you start exploring that exchange of energy between, life breath and plant growth, you start seeing how you're just a very small piece of this very planet. We actually are a part of this planet. We spring from this planet. And when we pass on, our body reduces back to the planet, but there's some other aspect of us that continues. But that aspect of us carries this planet with us for what, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, right? 100 years, maybe, if we're lucky. We carry this planet around with us in these bodies. It's the coolest thing ever to think about. And so every time you remote view anything, you already have this deep connection to our planet, and then by extension, the universe at large. Nothing is in isolation. Nothing is by itself. We are all connected.
Yeah, and this kind of raises in my mind, Birdie, your understanding of how that connection enables clairvoyance. If everything is a portal,
Yes.
that means that we can gain access to infinity through anything that's finite, that everything
Right.
is a portal. And so our capacity to engage in clairvoyant projection of our consciousness, how does that actually work in your experience? I mean, what's really going on with remote viewing, for example, or when someone is just gazing into a pool of water or into a flame of a candle, for example? What sort of technically, or in terms of physics, what do you think? What's your experience of what's actually going on? What is
Yeah,
that faculty?
this is a question that has been a big conundrum for everyone in the scientific community. But to me, and of course, I've looked at the answer to this using remote viewing multiple times, but to me, I feel that, and this is my own deep personal experience in this, is that everything literally is connected. I am you, you are me. We are all one creature, one organism. The universe is an organism, one big organism. We are just a tiny cell within this huge organism, and everything within this organism has this intense instant communication. One side knows what the other is doing. That's like all of in quantum mechanics, the non-local idea that, whatever a proton over here is doing, it is affecting something on the other side of the universe. And that, I believe, is true for our own mental faculties, our own bodies, everything around us. And so using these other kinds of portals, water or fire, or even just remote viewing protocols, that's a portal right there. Any of these portals is really, in a weird way, a psychological tool to get you to see what you already are and what already is. It's a way to allow yourself permission, to grant yourself the indulgence of experiencing all of these things. We have this life that we live here where, currently, cultures have been very different going back through humanity's ancient past. And as we've come into this deeply technological age, we are losing bits and bits, I believe, of our humanity. We're giving it over to technology. We're giving it over to people who are in charge, right? We are losing a bit of our own human agency. People walk around staring at their phones all day. They don't take time to walk out and outside barefoot. They don't spend time looking at the sky. how many times has anyone here gone out this past week, just this week alone, at night and looked out at the stars? And I bet the number would be shockingly low if we asked everybody watching this today. I know some people do it all the time. So, but for me, I have to remind myself to do this because we have become so technologically advanced, and it's this reliance on things outside of ourselves that's breaking off our ability to rely on what's inside of ourselves. And what's inside of ourselves is the entirety of the universe and every other universe as well. Everything, absolutely everything. We are all bits of God, if you will. That is my true belief.
And somehow it's our right brain as opposed to our left brain that gets this. So
Yes,
part of
yes.
of remote viewing, as I've learned it from you, is in some ways tricking the left brain to kind of take a break. Well, the right brain, which is always on a break, which is the reason why we're in such a pickle as a human race, is activated. Tell us a little more
Yes.
about this right brain, left brain connectivity and why it's the right brain that is the faculty we need to enhance.
Yeah, your right brain is our deeply intuitive, loving, gentle um, part of us that loves the unknown. It loves the ambiguity. It likes to put pieces together and to seek patterns in things and to understand things within context. But our left brain, and for many of us, and especially the more you rely on technology, the more your left brain is engaged. Your left brain is that side of you. And this is all scientifically proven. And I recommend anyone look at the work of Ian McGilchrist if you're interested in a deep dive in this. He is the #1 hemispheric scientist and philosopher out there. Incredible man. But the left side of your brain is controlling. It's extraordinarily manipulative. It wants to put a label on everything. It wants to name things. It wants to put things in a box. It hates the unknown. It hates ambiguity. It hates having to figure things out. So every day, of human existence, it's kind of a struggle between your right brain and your left brain. And everybody knows people who are extraordinarily left brain. They're the people that are, well, you got to do it this way, and I don't like this, and I don't like that, and this is what it is, and that's what it is. And then you have people who are way off on the right brain who can see everything in its gorgeous, beautiful, connected entirety. And most of us are somewhere in the middle, and we're juggling both hemispheres all the time. But transdimensional mapping and all remote viewing methods do employ a use of keeping your left brain occupied by doing fun stuff, and it's a little more fun in mapping because you're drawing, you're using colors, and you're following a certain steps along the way, and that keeps your left brain satisfied, but your right brain is allowed to let loose with this beautiful, rich data that describes the experience that you're having.
And Birdie, what would you say is the spiritual consequence of engaging in remote viewing? I mean, as just as an individual, you've been studying this for more than 30 years. What has been the impact on your life and your moral and spiritual development of remote viewing? Is it value neutral, or does it have effect on other
It has
dimensions of your being?
That is such a great question, Jim. It's changed everything in my life, absolutely everything. And some of that's just from getting older, the more you spend time on this planet, the more
Yeah.
you learn. But I know for a fact that engaging in this process on a daily basis, I've done remote viewing sessions every single day for 30 years, and most
Wow.
days I do two, sometimes three. And so it's been a long time with this process, but I have come to understand that I am just a small piece of our planet and a small piece of our entire galaxy and our big universe. but I am a beautiful piece of all of that as well. And I can see all these connections all of the time. It's made me a much more intuitive and understanding person. Now, when I talk with somebody, I can see into their heart more than I could many years ago. I can understand what they're really saying beyond their words, which has been helpful in healing some relationships in my family and friend circle, and in helping others with relationship building. Um, it's also been instrumental in me just understanding the world around me. It's so
Mm.
easy for all of us to get caught up in all the propaganda out there in the news. There's a lot of news stories that, that have a particular partisan spin, or that are simply just fake news, right? There's a lot of this that goes on out on the internet, but taking on a practice, a long-term practice like remote viewing, gives you a deep discernment. And it certainly has changed how I view everything. I can see things for how they actually are, not what people are saying about it necessarily. I can see the truth behind the words or the presentation. And that's helped me to understand, even crazy things like how I should vote in an election, or what I should respond to. And it's been remarkable how much it's changed me as a person over the past 30 years. I mean, we all have a long way to grow. I sure do as well going forward, but I'm just so grateful that I've had all these experiences and that I can honestly say that it's changed my life.
Well, that's a good note. As we conclude, I just want to bring up the telepathy tapes and the relationship between the witness of the autist, these many young people in what we would call handicapped bodies that have a clairvoyance that can only be called genius. And the emotional, spiritual expression that they consistently make is one, as you've been saying, of great joy, of great love, of great compassion, and a great empathy for being itself, but particularly those who are unfortunate. So that's really important for us to consider about remote viewing and clairvoyance. Is it's not value neutral. It has an effect,
Yes, it does.
and the effect is
100%.
very powerful and uplifting. So it actually elevates your consciousness by learning these new faculties, right?
It absolutely does. And the telepathy tapes are such a great example of this, because you're understanding this through the perspective of these young people who have maybe struggled in different aspects of their life. Maybe they're on the spectrum, or there's another issue going on, and they're able to have a rich, full life within these telepathic connections with each other and with the world around them. And it's opened up their lives in incredibly beautiful, rich, and full ways. And this is what it does for all of us. You don't have to be a kid. You don't have to feel like you're somebody who is a gifted psychic to do any of this. Everybody can do this. Everybody can do this. It's just an innate part of our own being, our own human abilities that we've forgotten about a long time ago, but we're bringing it back.
Well, and as you say, our world of smartphones and computers and urban con condensing of humanity, so we never go outdoors, we don't go out into nature, is taking us more and more into our left brain,
Right.
while what we need is to go more and more into our right brain
That's
in
right.
order to effectively save ourselves.
That's 100% correct. Going more into our right brain is the only way we're going to save humanity. There's no question about it. And ways that everybody out there today can do this right away: spend time in nature, spend time in meditation, take up a practice like remote viewing or another meditative practice. These are easy ways that you can start reducing, get rid of your cell phone for a few hours a day at least, or make sure you don't take your iPad to bed with you at night. And believe me, guys, I've been guilty of all these things. So, but I'm trying to be good. But just, you know, being a little more mindful about being a beautiful animal on this planet, and that will get your right brain activated.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's that great poet, this woman? I forget her name. Let the animal in you love what it loves.
Exactly.
And that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Birdie, this has been wonderful. And where we've ended up, everyone, is really why we're so honored to have Birdie with us teaching remote viewing. It's clear that where we need to go is toward higher levels of consciousness by activating our right brain, and remote viewing and clairvoyance of all kinds helps us do that. And that's why we're taking people to Taos, bringing Birdie to Chartres, so all of you can spend time with her and learn what she has to offer, and thereby in community, look up into the stars. We'll also do that in Chartres. There'll be clear days in July in Chartres, like in Santa Fe in May. So we'll be joining Birdie out, looking for the ETs and seeing how we can begin to establish direct contact and communication. It'll be a wonderful, wonderful time. So thank you, Birdie. Thank you very much for everything you do and your willingness to be in partnership with our ET Studies program.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's my honor. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Birdie. And that'll bring us to a close for today, everyone. You can join Birdie in the after chat. You'll see the link in the chat box. You receive the link in your Zoom reminder for today. And then we'll see you all again tomorrow, where we're going to look at the Urantia book, which is a channeled communication from the ETs about the true nature of the cosmos. And we're going to have one of the world's leading specialists in the Urantia book talk to us about this very interesting phenomenon in the spirit world of angels and demons. It's going to be fascinating tomorrow on Humanity Rising. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Birdie. Bye for now.